Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today, we are so excited to have the Go Trego panel with us. And Ted, this is going to be a really informative topic today.
Sarah, thank you. It really is. And we're so fortunate to have met Go Trego along the way and their deep roots in the automotive retail industry. We want to welcome back Cobi Collins, who's with us today, great friend of the roundtable. Cobi, welcome. And you've got some friends with you to introduce.
I do. I have two really critical friends to introduce today. We got Aaron Calvert. He's the Fixed Ops Director for Principal Automotive, and Justin Rodriguez, who is the Head of People Strategy, Director of People Operations at Principal. And they have just been terrific clients of ours and excellent business partners. And because they are achieving tremendous success and seeing improvements in critical areas like retention, productivity, and coaching, I really wanted them to come on and talk to you all today about how they've been able to achieve these things and what their best practices are so that you can emulate their success.
And Cobi, before Sarah and I ask some questions of Aaron and Justin, give us a little bit of color for our audience who may not have heard about Go Trego yet. What does the company do, and who do you work with specifically?
Great. So we are actually an employee assessment company. And the Trego assessment, or the TPS, the Trego Personnel Survey, is specifically developed with and for the automotive industry. So for automotive professionals and dealerships especially. We've actually been working in this industry now for 4 decades. I've not been there the entire time, but I've been there for 3 of those 4 decades. So it is just our honor to be able to introduce our tools in this forum at the Fixed Ops Roundtable so that you all know exactly what's available to you to improve your ability to capture the best talent for your teams. And that's what we're after. We want to see your organizations achieve what it is that the company started out to achieve. And the only way to do that is by fielding the best team. So we help you identify potential and then become the most attractive place to bring them in.
Justin, I'd like to welcome you first to the Fix Ops Roundtable. Welcome, as well as Principal Automotive Group. You're in San Antonio, and I'm up here in the New York area, and we have heard and seen so much happening in the retail automotive industry in San Antonio. It looks like that area is growing and bustling, and so much happening in retail. And I would imagine you probably have a choice of a lot of folks that you could be hiring. Tell us a little bit about the group and then your experience with Go Trego.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. We've grown tremendously. I've been with the organization for 6.5 years. When I joined the organization, we sat at about 320 associates, full-time associates. Today, we sit at about 670. So we've gone through a lot of growth over the last 6 years. And as much as we are going out and going to find new talent, great talent, people to come and work with some tremendous brands that we represent with our OEM partners, we're also competing in the market to attract people to not only come to the automotive industry, but also why Principal Auto Group is a great place to come and work. And so partnering with people like Go Trego and some of our other vendor partners have been really, really helpful for us to identify not only who's a great person to get them in the organization, but where can we put them so that they thrive within the organization.
And Justin, if you don't mind, for the audience, what brands does Principal represent there in the market?
So we have a BMW, Mini, Volvo, Infiniti, Hyundai, and Toyota.
Well, all right. Very good. And let me come over to Aaron. I understand you've got some deep experience with Go Trego. I'll let you tell us a little bit about that and your experience here at Principal with Go Trego.
Yep. Well, yeah, I, in my previous life, was with an organization that's been using Trego since I signed on with them back in 1999 and probably prior to that. For the first 10 years of my management career, I actually used this test intimately with other decision makers on who we were going to bring in to fit our culture and fit our parameters of who we were looking for to join the automotive industry. And not just from an automotive standpoint, but also who was going to have the best customer service, who was going to be able to withstand the pressure of the automotive world and in the retail environment. And so I've been with Principal now for coming up on 8 years, and we partnered with Go Trego, which I was obviously advocating for from day one of getting that back, because the hiring process was a little more challenging without that tool to go back on. We used other vendors and tried to emulate what Trego Go Trego could do, but really getting this test back, this system back into our environment has helped tremendously, not only from hiring great people, which is one of our guiding principles, but also from retaining those people and keeping them in the principal family.
And Aaron, you use the assessment in fixed operations there at the principal?
Absolutely. We use it from every position, from our support staff coordinators, which is our valets, transportation departments, frontline associates, to our service advisors, our management team, our parts department, body shop estimators, technicians. Everybody goes through the TPS, and then we evaluate those results as to how well they will fit, both from a cultural standpoint as well as a can-do standpoint.
Justin, to Aaron's point, talking about the TPS and how everything keeps evolving with employee retention and keeping better employees in your organization, could you share with us a little bit, how have you seen these tools specifically help impact key areas like retention and productivity within the organization?
Yeah, so I think that's a big thing. One of the things that the word that Aaron used, I think, is really good, because he talked about the system of using the TPS, because it's not just a survey or a test, or it's a one-time thing where, hey, it's binary, pass, fail, you got the job, you didn't get the job. We regularly go back and we look at that survey in order for us to talk about our retention strategies, our succession planning, when we're opening up a new point, or when we have a new dealership or an open position. Where do we go back and look at where maybe we have underutilized talent, so that we can promote from within? But on the other side too, a lot of times what people do when they come into automotive retail is they say, well, I tried it for a little bit and I didn't make enough money as what I thought I should, or it was harder, or I'm tired of, having customers get mad at me on the service drive, all the number of things that we hear during an exit interview. And prior to having those conversations, when they're giving us a 2 weeks notice, we can sit down with them and say, what's working, what's not working. One of the big things that we regularly fall back on under the TPS is the section that they call occupational interest. And so is that you have a bigger inclination into going into the finance side of things, of how numbers come together. And we've had people go from the retail space to our accounting space, and vice versa, because we were able to pinpoint, maybe you didn't quite know when you sat down and did the survey, you told us you might be interested in this, and it unlocked a passion that they have. So we've been able to keep people, retain people, grow people, because we use a tool like this.
And Aaron, how have you seen this in your fixed operations department? Like, how has it specifically impacted your hiring process with service advisors, technicians? And do you see the same things that Justin is talking about, where maybe somebody wasn't the right fit in one department, but now they're thriving in a different one?
So it's funny you say that. And Justin, I'm going back now 27 years when I was getting hired on. And I was coming out of college, and I couldn't spell oil change. So fixed ops was the furthest thing from my mind is what I wanted to do. I thought, I'm going to go sell these nice cars. I'm going to go be a salesperson. That fits my degree. This is my future. I'm going to go do that. And I was very politely told that, we really see your interest pattern being more designed for service. And service is sales. You're just selling you're selling time. You're selling peace of mind. You're selling yourself. It's, maybe not a tangible product, but it's still sales. And I can't tell you how putting me, from my perspective, in the right seat from the start, formulated a career that's lasted almost, or a little over a quarter century. If I'd have gone into sales, I'd have burned out in 9 months and said, this isn't for me, I'm out of here. But whereas this, I made it work, and it's turned into a great career. But so far as what we're doing, using it in the fixed operations department, there's a lot of different things, from the interest pattern, making sure that we're filling checking that box. But I think everybody that's listening in fixed ops will agree, fixed operations is a challenging department, or challenging departments. Service, body shop. A lot of times these people coming in to see us are not having great days, whether their car's broken down or you got in an accident. If you're a body shop estimator, they're not having good days. The the box I rely on more than anything else in the TPS is the emotional toughness, because I want somebody that can go and,
Right.
you know, have that water off a duck's back. Understand that if a guest is upset, a guest is frustrated, a guest is yelling, it's not me they're mad at. It's not Aaron Calvert personally that they're upset with. I need to be able to compartmentalize that action and be able to still provide an exceptional level of service without taking things personal. So when I look at that box, that is one of the top indicators for me on how somebody's going to be successful within fixed operations.
And Cobi, how, I keep hearing TPS that mentioned, and we've been talking a little bit about it, but how does a dealer, first get started with these reports, and how do you help them get it all going?
That is a great question, Sarah. Thank you so much. And I want to answer that question, but I want to really quick touch on something that Aaron just said and tell you, Aaron, you sharing that using this tool actually helped you as a candidate and applicant for that dealership, helped you actually find your right seat and created a career for you. That just warms my heart. That is what we are really after, is not just helping the dealership and the organization get great talent, but helping the great talent that shows up actually develop and find the right place for them, because so much talent gets lost when we don't recognize where people's skill sets actually are. And we don't always know that as a person. I don't always know what I'm headed into. It's what I think I want to do. And so this was able to clarify that for you. So thanks for sharing that story. That's great. And Sarah, the best way for folks to get started with us, for organizations, we often get brought in through fixed ops or through sales, through the GM, and then handed over to human resources, because human resources manages all of the hiring process. And so it's great when we actually get to talk to an HR director and get introduced that way. But this is fixed ops that are here. And so they can know that the challenges they're struggling with, we can help them solve those. And we'll do it in partnership with human resources. But it's so simple. It's a conversation with us. And actually, they can go to our website and you can hire your next person or do your next interview for free on us. You can check out and test drive this tool and see what it's like and what the experience is. And we'll debrief you on that so you know what it is. So they connect with us. We get a software account set up for them because it's all digital today. There's no AI or machine learning. It's just all online so that you can easily and quickly have applicants take the assessment early on in the hiring process. And it's super simple. You can use a subscription model, which is what most all of our clients do because they use it for all of their hiring. Okay. But if you want to do a test drive project, then you can get a bulk of assessments and we do a job study for you and debrief you. And I personally do all of the training and onboarding. So my job is to empower all of the hiring decision makers to know how to understand the assessment. It's written in layman's terms. It is not psychobabble. You don't have to interpret anything. Justin and Aaron can speak to this. They don't have to have us interpret the results. You don't have to have a psych degree. You don't have to have a certification. You send a link to a candidate. They take a 40-minute assessment. You get the results back automatically. It gives you interview questions and insights on that candidate and how they fit that job. And then you make a decision from there. You move on from there. And it's just a part of the hiring process. Justin, you said it. It is not hire, don't hire. There is no pass or fail. All we're doing is looking at what makes people tick at work. And it is highly predictive of future success. So we're able to identify the right people who fit your company, your leadership, and the job itself. Super easy. So it's all automated. We take care of all the heavy lifting on the backside for you. We just need to have a phone call and find out what you're up against and see how we can help you out with that.
Justin, if I could follow up, you're director of people operations, and something that Aaron mentioned a few minutes ago, and I want to broach with you if you don't mind. I know in retail automotive, we're all in charge of our own attitudes, right? And we look at the attitudes of folks that work for us and come to work for us. Mm-hmm. But Justin, in our industry, it's really easy for an employee's attitude to become contaminated. Let's say early in the afternoon, if they've dealt with enough negative situations or possibly negative customers along the way. Justin, speak to that, and how does the Trego assessment help you as a leader there?
Yeah, so I think you either rise to the occasion because you have a bunch of people who are around you that are speaking the same language and they've heard no 8 times as well this morning, or they've also gotten, talked about how the door rate's too high and they don't want to pay for the diagnostic fee or whatever the case may be, right? And so you have somebody to commiserate with who understands and kind of synapses at the same level that you do to go, okay, I can get that off my back and, let's move on with our day. Or vice versa. Unfortunately, sometimes, I've had a rough day too, and then they spiral down together. And so one of the things that we look at that Aaron had talked about is that emotional toughness button that we like to talk about. How many times can you get told no and just continue to roll with the day? But from a management perspective, when we see somebody who's not having a great day, we regularly say as an organization, part of our guiding principles is enthusiasm, but we also define it as fun. We have moments and pieces of our jobs that aren't fun, but we have a genuine enthusiasm and passion for what we do and the people we do it with. But we all have different motivating needs of how we interact with those psychological factors. And so in a very, very easy to understand layman's terms way that the TPS helps us is they talk about people relations. Some of us want to sit down with you and vent everything out so that it's off of our chest and we can move on with our day. Other people in our organization, that's me. Other people in our organization, kind of like Aaron, I'm going to let him sit in his office and let him think through and he'll work it out in his mind. He doesn't need to talk to me because it'll just continue to spiral, right? And so from that people contact, put myself on do not disturb. But from the people relations portion of it, people contact, do I want to go and commiserate with somebody so I get it off my chest and move on? Do I need to go and kind of retreat for about 5 minutes and stand in the parking lot and get some fresh air and then come back and I'm ready to go? There's a lot of that insight that we can get from a TPS.
Sarah, how important what Justin just mentioned, that emotional toughness, is that to work in retail? How important an ingredient is that?
Oh my gosh. Just thinking about all the different departments across, the customer facing side of our industry. Customers are a variable. You never know who you're talking to. You never know how their day is going, and you never know how urgently that oil change or visit or purchase decision is in their mind. So Ted, all of these pieces are so important in our retail environment today.
Aaron, let me come back to you. You mentioned early on in your career as a young person getting into the automotive industry, you had a chance to take that Trego assessment at another organization. Talk to us about that experience. I understand you met the person behind the assessment as well at that time.
I did. And I do want to address, did Justin just low-key call me a negative person by us in the office? So yeah, back when I took the assessment, I was interning with this organization. I was coming up on my last semester of college, and I went, and everybody had been talking about it all summer long. Well, if you're going to come to work here, you got to go take this Trego. You got to take the Trego. And back then, it was a very intimidating prospect because you're going to go take a test that's going to determine your ability to come to work for this organization full time. And you had to sit down with Dr. Trego and be interviewed by a psychologist before getting on board. Now, that was what I was telling, the story I was telling myself and building it up in my mind to be. What it was is a very nice conversation with a very nice gentleman. And then a test that was not nearly as stressful as I was making it out to be in my mind. But ultimately speaking, like I said, that test, predicated me getting into the right seat. Now, at that time, did I think it was the right seat? I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go work in the service department. And I made them promise that if I didn't like it, I could move to sales in 6 months. And ultimately, 26 years later, here I am. So obviously, I think they knew what they were talking about when they talked to me about going into service. And it's worked out pretty well for me. And the test wasn't nearly as intimidating as I made it out to be in my mind.
Justin, as Aaron's talking about all of these pieces with, he wasn't sure he was in the right seat, but then he grew into the position, and 26 years later, he's still in fixed operations. But there was another example that I believe you had a story about, and it was regarding one general manager after using the Go Trego tools had a 48% improvement in sales effectiveness. Can you share a little bit about that story?
Yeah, so we had a general manager who came in and again, it's a process, right? It's a system that we're talking about and using with this. And so In some instances, you can look at that, and Ted, I think you kind of alluded to it, where in retail business, the general manager is typically, used to calling the shots and running what he wants to run at his dealership. And one of the processes and things that we've done in our organization to include the TPS in our system here is that it will purposefully slow us down. One of the things that applicants are very good at is making sure that they dress appropriately for the interview, that they shower before they come into the interview, right? It's the best version that you kind of get of that applicant. And so it's easy to fall in love with the person in front of you. And so we take a more data-driven approach. It's instantaneous, so we get the results right away. We don't have to go meet with a PhD or anybody else out of the system, but they take a survey online and we get those results. And what it allows us to do is have that consultation with the general manager to go, okay, did you see the emotional toughness? Or let me tell you some of the concerns. You're going to put, somebody in that role in a sales position who's told us that they have zero occupational interest in sales. Why are they looking to do that? And they may have a perfectly legitimate good reason, but it allows us to come back and just press a little bit harder to go, okay, what's really the reason you're sitting here in front of me looking for another job or talking about this specific position? And so that general manager that I was referring to with Cobi really pushed back on me because he didn't want to slow the hiring process down. He didn't want to have somebody else tell him who he should or maybe shouldn't be looking at for that specific role, or maybe they need to look at a different position. And he quickly realized, we started to keep a tally, and we said, okay, we'll go with your assessment today on how you're thinking because they interview that way. And let's mark it down and see where are they at with how many units they're selling, what kind of gross are they holding. And we just looked at it from a numbers perspective, how they were doing. And I'm happy to report that 80% of the time when we went with the TPS and the person and the resume, right, the three kind of legged stool that I talk about in an interview, we batted, really, really good odds. The times that we had something that, really kind of blew up in our face, or just, hey, this was not the right fit and I just don't want to do this anymore, was one of those people we had on the list to go, okay, we're going to go with the person who's here, maybe not with what the data is telling us or what the interview leads us to believe, but what they're telling us just by face value. And so it took some trial and error, but his turnover dropped 10 percentage points, which he has 80 people in his dealership. 15%. And so that's an extra 12 people that he's just been able to retain that we haven't had to go back out, advertise for. Unit count is up 53% year over year from last year to this year after he's bought in. Net profit numbers, I was running the percentage numbers and they're so much higher that it seemed like I made them up, but net profit is up, unit count is up, turnover has gone down, so our retention is increased. So in all the ways that we measure, a successful general manager, a successful dealership, he's hitting on the right marks. But I don't think that he's a good operator, yes, and I would give him a lot of credit. But I think it also comes down to he's assembled a really strong team and he knows how to block and tackle. We all have strengths and weaknesses. So he finds the strong people and he covers their weaknesses with somebody who complements them.
And Aaron, I imagine there's been a big growth in your departments as well. In fixed operations, Justin was sharing 300 to 600 employees. How has Trego's tools help you scale the solutions in your department?
The way it's helped me is what Justin just touched on, and it's mainly retention. So when I first got here, and 8 years ago, it was a revolving door of service advisors. It was a revolving door of technicians. In fact, when I got here, apparently it was a revolving door of service managers, because it was basically said to me by the technicians, all I got to do is wait 6 months and then I'll have a new one of you to deal with. So one of my goals for my departments is I want 15% annually turnover or less. Now, that's a pretty big goal. I mean, 15% or less that'd be world class. I mean, at double that in automotive. But I can give you some real numbers. In 23, I think it was our first full year of using Trego, if I'm not mistaken, and we got down to just under 24% turnover for all of fixed ops. Year to date this year, we're down to under 20%, almost to 19% turnover. So it's not so much that we've had to scale up, which we have. I mean, not to the number with the organization as a whole, but at the 2 stores here, we have had to scale up based on just natural growth. But what's helped is not having the turnover and having to scale up and replace. So we are scaling up and we're allowed to add people in that culturally fit, and then they get trained to our processes. And really what this does, and I don't want this to be a, sound Pollyannish, that TPS is going to change your world or Go Trego is going to change your world. It is just another tool in your toolbox. But what it can do is it tells you, I'm going to put a talented, smart person in there and get out of their way. And if I've got good processes in place, I have that person that this test is telling me is going to fit us from a cultural standpoint and a can-do standpoint. Let me give them the tools and get out of their way and let them show us where we're missing areas of opportunity. And so using that is what's helped us quite a bit. And in my career, I will say I've gone against Trego, and sometimes it's worked out. But more times than not, I get told by my HR staff, I told you so. And that's what I try not to allow them to say is I told you so.
Wonderful.
That's so, Aaron, that's so good. Thanks for sharing that. And it's true, right? We are not so ignorant to think that this is the end all be all. It is an additional piece of information so that you can make the best decision with all the information available to you, and then be able to draw out the best in your people to understand them. And it's so hard for a lot of managers after they hire people and train them to actually empower them to go do the job they were hired to do. And what this tool can do is it gives confidence to hiring managers, to ops directors. And I love this because you now know you can actually train them and then release them and let them go do their job. And you're not having to backfill and fill in those gaps because you do have the right people on the team and you can trust that. And hopefully it's making your job easier too. And that's what we want to see is everyone be lifted up and to see managers really become superstars to their people. And when you understand who's working on your team and you understand yourself, the conversations become much more productive. So thanks for sharing that. That's exciting. And man, you guys are breaking records in the industry for reduction in turnover. So many dealerships just accept that it's a quote high turnover industry. You guys said, no, we are not going to accept that. And we're going to do everything we can to reduce this number. And you've done it.
I want to make one more point. The conversations we have about the TPS and Go Trego is it's held pretty close to the vest. In fact, the conversations are basically director level, HR level, GM level on those conversations. We're not sharing the test results with the candidates and that. It's a tool for us to use, but we want everybody to play to their strengths. I don't want them to see the chinks in their armor. We just have to go in eyes wide open to if there's an area of opportunity or a challenge. Okay, how do we manage that? How do we communicate with them about that? How do we coach them to be better in that area? But I don't want them to know, oh, I've got low people contact. Oh, I've got to jump out there. Oh, my emotional toughness isn't where I need to. I want them to play to their strengths, and I'll know about their weaknesses. So it's not a here's all your results, and this is why you're going to do great. No, you already know you're going to do great if you're trying to get in the industry. I just want to know where I need to guide you.
It helps you train them and double down on their strengths and overcome their challenge areas without laying a score in front of them, because we try not to create chaos where it's not needed, right? And we all from school get terrified when we see a certain number out of context and you don't know what it means. But directors and hiring managers are trained to know what it means. And then you just have real conversations with your people about it and don't even have to reference where you got the data from.
Absolutely.
So, Cobi, bring it home for our audience who's watching today from automotive retail. How do they go about taking the next steps to learn more about Go Trego? I see on the Route 66 banner behind you, the Go Trego logo up there. I guess it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, we've been around a long time.
All right, tell us how we take the next steps.
So awesome. All you have to do is go to www.gotrego.com and it will guide you. You can click on the take a test drive. We've got a link that will help you there. You can also just send me an email. It's Cobi, COBI @gotrego, TREGO.com. I would be happy to hear from any of you directly and I'll get you connected. We'll just have a conversation, right? That doesn't cost you anything to try it out. So, and it is easy to implement. I know, Justin, you said that it slows the process down, but how much does it really slow down, Justin?
We can move as fast as a general manager will answer my phone call.
Okay, good. Right. So yes, it makes you pause for a minute and think through some data, but it doesn't really slow everything down too terribly. And actually, Justin, what's been your experience like working with us and having support from us and getting what you need from us?
Yeah, so Cobi and her team have been incredibly responsive. I send an email, and typically within an hour, I either have a response in an email or she's calling me to go, hey, it's easier if we just talk on the phone real quick because I don't have to type and you don't have to read it, right? And so they're very responsive. But also, I think our initial call was maybe 45 minutes because, again, it wasn't understanding, graphs and, letters and all that stuff. It was very self-explanatory to go, let me show you how to get access to the report and so how you can start using this. And so we have a database we can go into and pull up past reports and look for ourselves. And if we ever have questions, we just reach out to Cobi and her team and they immediately help us. So it's been very, very quick, very responsive.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, we keep everything super transparent. And I think the most important thing for everyone to remember today when you're leading a team of people is that it is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity to understand who you're trying to bring on your team and to know those people. And you've got to be able to uncover potential. And so just like Aaron, you didn't have years of experience before you were hired into that organization that's world-class, but they knew what you were capable of because that was uncovered in the interview process and with this assessment. And so Principal actually does college campus recruiting and they do a great job of it. And they trust what the students are capable of because we're able to pull that out based on science. And so you get all 5 generations in your workforce working together in the right places. So again, it's just no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. And we're here to help you do it in a really affordable way and just knock it out of the park to really field your best team because he who has the best team wins every time. And great people go where great people are. So we want to help you become that great place that great talent wants to come to. Thanks, Ted.
Justin Rodriguez and Aaron Calvert from the Principal Automotive Group in San Antonio. Thank you so much for being a part of the Fixed Ops Roundtable today. Welcome to the community. We hope to see you back on many events and be a part of many events. Thank you for sharing this great information about Go Trego and the secret sauce that Cobi Collins and the Go Trego team share. Everybody, you can reach Go Trego on the web, gotrego.com, and you can see Cobi's email scrolling at the bottom of the ticker. Sarah Vantine, thank you as well. Cobi Collins, everybody, and the team from Principal Automotive Group with Go Trego here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.